became a dark and open cage, where dream masters could walk into the sleep to write their malice on a blank white page and take the sanity they wish to keep. Wade fought the terror of the waking night, where thoughts could bruise and shadows had a hand, until they broke the structure of the light to escape the dreamers of the troubled land. They landed next where water was like gold, a barren desert stretching far and wide, where every drop was rationed out and sold, and desperate people had no place to hide. The storm was gathering in the shifting sand, with mystics claiming power o'er the sky. They had to guide the weary, thirsty band before the final well was running dry. And science yielded to an older tongue, where legends breathed and charcoal skies turned red, where ancient heavy tapestries were hung, and a dragon flew above the mountain's head. And alchemists sought power from the flame to blend the magic with the modern art. But nature is a beast no man can tame before the ticking timer makes it start. They jumped into a city filled with smoke, where a living flame was moving through the street, a fire within that whispered when it spoke, and left the pavement burning with the heat. An entity of pure and sparking oil that sought a way to find its native home. It wrapped the travelers in its burning coil, beneath the shadow of the smoky dome. They stood together as the numbers fell, the silver casing growing hot and bright, to leave the dragon and the dreaming spell, and vanish in the tunnel of the light. The professor kept his focus on the chart, though weary from the endless shifting view, each new horizon testing every heart, as the vortex opened up a violent blue. The multiverse is a labyrinth of the mind, a hallway with 1,000 different doors. With every version that they leave behind, they trace the patterns of forgotten shores. The traveler is a witness to the change, a keeper of the stories left untold, through every world that's beautiful and strange, beneath the suns of crimson and of gold. The blue light opens like a hungry eye to pull them from the ashes and the dust. They rise into the digital clear sky, because the spinning timer says they must. From burning streets to castles in the air, the script is followed with a steady hand. push away the shadow of despair, to seek the shores of their own native land. A royal court where lines of blood ran deep, and Quinn was thrown into a regent's throne. A world where heavy secrets had to keep, and family sins were carved in royal stone. The Prince of Slides was tangled in a net of ancient laws and shadows in the dark, to pay a sovereign and a heavy debt before the timer made its sudden spark. They landed next where humans were displaced by cold machines that perfected the mind, where every living feature was erased to leave the organic world far behind. The state of the art was digital and cold, a paradise of silicone and steel, where cloning took the place of growing old, and data was the only thing to feel. Then shopping malls were built within the sky, a corporate heaven filled with tinsel bright, where consumer greed was flying far too high beneath the artificial festive light. The greetings of the season brought a chill as workers labored for the upper floor. They had to break the high financial will before they hurried to the vortex store. But then the sky was cracked by cosmic dread, a dying world where pulsar radiation burned, with millions counting down among the dead, and every eye toward the heavens turned. The Exodus was built on military might, a desperate plan to save a chosen few. They worked to find a coordinate of light, to lead the people to a world anew. The shadow of the colonel blocked the sun, a ruthless man who took what he desired. Before the final desperate race was done, a tragic, cold and fatal shot was fired. The brave professor fell upon the sand to save his friend from destiny and doom. They lost their anchor in that dying land and left him in a quiet, lonely tomb. With Maggie joining in the broken line, they chased the killer through the cosmic deep, to seek a justice that was half divine, and promises they swore that they would keep. The timer wept in pulses of pure white as 3 original travelers remained to push into the tunnel of the light, with heavy hearts and spirits deeply pained. The multiverse is darker than it seems, a library of loss and broken ties, a place where the professor lived and dreamed beneath 100 different turning skies. The blue light opens like a grieving eye, digital sky, because the spinning timer says they must. From royal courts to the military base, the script is written in a bitter hand. They look for comfort in a familiar face, while searching for their missing native land. They landed in a city stripped of life, where a techno plague had swept the populace. A world of silent streets and hidden strife, where walkers hunted in the hollow space. Quinn felt the venom burning in his veins, a soul survivor in a digital trap. They had to break the corporate system's chains before the virus claimed the final map. The nature twisted in a dark design, an alien parasite within the flesh, a hidden thread that crossed the cosmic line to trap the weary travelers in its mesh. The breeder sought to keep its species whole by turning innocence to living clay. They fought to keep control of mind and soul before the ticking timer slid away. They stepped into a world of crimson light, where gothic shadows ruled the social scene. A modern coven hunting in the night, with a charismatic stoker on the screen. The desperate youth were drinking of the blood to find the phantom immortality. They had to stem the dark, seductive flood and set the captured, broken spirits free. Then toxic venom filled the jungle air, where massive serpents ruled the forest floor. A corporate scheme that trapped them in a snare, right at the threshold of the vortex door. The slither of the scales upon the ground, a deadly game of high-stakes smuggling gold. They had to reach the clearing safe and sound before the final lethal trap could hold. The line was changed, the pieces fell apart. The memory of the past was like a flame, with every new horizon testing hard, and no one left who truly knew their name. The silver timer hummed its steady song as Maggie learned the rhythm of the flight, to leave the place where everything was wrong and chase the tunnel of the spinning light. The multiverse is vast and ever strange, a shifting maze of consequence and fear. They watch the versions of the world arrange with every passing day and every year. The traveler is a ghost upon the wind, a nomad searching for a specific sea. They rise again into the digital sky, because the spinning timer says they must. From corporate plagues to the vampire's den, the script is followed with a steady hand. They gather up their strength to jump again, in search of their own native, peaceful land.